Hello everybody, this is Ian from Sylabs, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build Singularity containers from recipe files. Before I do that, if you don't know how to use the exec, shell, or run commands, feel free to check out the link to our previous video at the top of the screen. So first I'm going to show you what's in my directory. I have a Python program right here that's going to print an environment variable within our container. And I also have a recipe file that we'll use to actually build our container later on. So I'm going to open that up and we can talk about the various components. At the top of our recipe file we have a header which tells us what operating system we're going to install in our container. So this bootstrap component tells us that we're going to be using a container from Docker Hub as the base to build off of, and the from section tells us specifically what container we're going to be using from there. In this case it's an Ubuntu container. It's important to note that if you use the keyword latest or don't specify a version, your container will not be reproducible if the latest version changes, because people will be building containers off of an entirely different base. So it's best practice to use a specific version number instead. So next up we have a help section. This will allow you to give some helpful information to whoever's using your container. After that we have a labels section which will allow you to impart metadata within the container. In this case I'll be creating a creator tag so that people know who made this container. Then we have an environment section that allows us to create environment variables within our container. In this case I'm creating a variable that our Python script will read later on. After that we have a files section. This will allow us to copy files into our container. In this case I'm copying our Python script into the root directory of our container. Next up we have a post section. This allows us to run commands once our container has already been created. In this case I'll be updating and installing packages so that we can run our Python script. Finally we have our run script. This allows us to specify a workflow that our container should perform when it's run. In this case I'll be running our Python script that we copied to our root directory. So now I'm just going to exit out of this and start building our container. So we can make our container using sudo singularity build and then specify the name. I'm going to call it ubuntu.simg, and then we can specify what we're going to build from. In this case it'll be our recipe file. So I'm just going to cut to the end of this so you don't have to wait on this. So now that our container is done building, we can make sure our help message is there by using singularity help and then our container name. And we can see that it's there. And we can also make sure our label is there by using singularity inspect, then our container name. And we can see that's there as well, along with some other labels that were made by default. So now we can make sure that our Python script was successfully copied to the root directory by shelling into the container. And seeing what's in root. And we can see that's right here. We can also make sure that our environment variable is properly set. And we can see that it was. So the last thing to do is to make sure that our Python script works when we call it from the run command. So we can use singularity run, and then our container name. And we can see that our Python program successfully reads our environment variable inside of our container and prints it out for us. So building containers from recipe files makes them very reproducible, because if somebody wants to know how you made your container, they can simply use singularity inspect with the def file flag, and then your container, and they can see the entire recipe file that you used to build it. So I didn't use all the features of recipe files in this video. If you'd like to check those out, I'll leave a link to the documentation in the description below. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.